Yo, what's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads, and especially all you gardeners out there? This is Mr. Weedman and Big Earl with the Grow Hour. Big Earl, my brother, how the hell are you?
What's up, man? I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. You want to know why?
Why?
Because I'm about to get baked with you, and we're going to talk a little bit about how do we gain some weight. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. How do we grow?
How do we gain some weight? We can talk about that, too.
How do we
Holidays
grow?
are coming up.
Yep, exactly. How do we grow for weight is what we're going to be talking about today. But before we talk about putting on those extra pounds on your buds and on your belly like we all do the next couple months, let's smoke, man. Let's smoke. You came by his house this week, and I fucking love when you do, because you brought a new strain by that I haven't tried from you yet called Fir Fir F-I-R-O-G. Tell us about it, my friend.
Yes, so that one was hunted out by the Wolfman.
Wolfie.
He got it is Nightmare OG across to the Peach Stank, and the Peach Stank male that was used was just a monster, just like everything that I love with the female. But I mean, obviously not. It's flowers, but just chunky and stuck together, and you know, didn't stretch real hard, and just there's a strong, fucking gnarly, awesome male. But anyway, he grew that out, and I was so surprised by the terps on it, because when you say Nightmare OG, you think like the gas, and that Peach Stank is like a citrusy kind of like citronella, like haze funk. Or whatever you know what I mean, on the Peach Stank, a little bit of that papaya coming around, depending on how it's finished. And
he loves that Peach Stank too. He loves pressing that hash with that Peach Stank.
Oh yeah, Peach Stank. It's a great plant. I love those. The mixture on the terps on that is my favorite. But they also like super. It's F1, so there's a lot of expressions in it. But I'm telling you, out of the like 7 or 8 I've seen, like personally grown out, like 4 or 5 of them are like keepers. They're like almost hitting every box. You know what I mean?
Really?
Like, fucking all of them are stacking. All of them are real strong. And it's just about that terp, really. And the weight, as we'll talk about today a little bit.
But, I will tell you, the bud structure is absolutely amazing on these. The crystals, the trichomes, but also the color on this was very, very like
the fir.
Like a Fraser fir, but like you ever take a Fraser fir tree and you go underneath it and it has that like that different shade of green. This is like a fucking neon green. It's not dark at all. This is like, man, it was like it was beautiful. But I wish I can grab I wish I can grab my jar that's over there by the table to show people these nugs that I get to smoke and how well you grew these plants. They were just phenomenal. Good night. Well done, my friend. What are you smoking on?
I just lit up the Fat Sweaty Bulldog, and I got a gelato joint too. Some of those other flavors got done, so yeah, man, that was a great selection.
I'm looking forward to that gelato. Looking forward to trying a little bit of that. It's been a minute since I had some good gelato, but I tell you what, very highly impressed with everything you brought by. It's everything. My house reeked because you just fucking the smell, the terps, everything is just like aromatic. At one point I was like, holy shit, there's too many smells going on right now.
That's real overload. Yeah. That 10, that stanky glue, I really like this round. That stanky glue, this is probably like the 4th round I've had with it, and I had 3 pheno, and then I narrowed it down to 2 and 1. And that was the number 2. That number 10 got second place. But then this run of it, I was like, fuck. It's just such a nice plant. But the 9 ultimately won. It's just way different, you know?
They both had great smells. Yeah. And a little different. You could tell between the both. Bud structures, you could tell a little different. But very, very, very just like the feel, the smell, the way you were able to grind it fluffy when you ground it up. I smoked every strain that you brought over. So Mrs. Weedman had some fun the last couple of days. So I mean, it's just all fucking phenomenal weed, man. Nice work on everything you brought over this time. We do have some a little news. The elections were fucking a couple of days ago. Once you guys all hear, the gals hear all this, but just very sad for Florida. Amendment 3 not passing. missing it by like almost 3.5%. North and South Dakota not hitting the mark for recreational, like high percentage of no. I was shocked. Very disappointing. Some good news though. Nebraska, the two bills they had for discussion and possibly moving forward with ballot measures to vote 70%, but it's in court right now because they weren't going to count these two ballots, but people are fighting for it. So we'll see if it goes through. Because let me tell you something: people in Nebraska smoke a lot of weed. You don't all realize that. I've never been to Nebraska, but I know some people I know some corn huskers, and they can grow some phenomenal weed out in that corn that you'll never find.
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
And but I know Nebraska, you fucking corn huskers out there, you all smoke a lot of weed. What else you gonna do? Fucking, you got corn growing and you smoke a lot of weed. I appreciate the fuck out of that. That's why they want weed. The governor is, he's a dookie. He is, but the people want it. Let it pass. Let it at least pass medical.
Yeah.
You know, so that was pretty cool. Dallas, Texas, and I think it's Lockport or Lockhart, Texas. Both of the bills passed for decriminalization. That's pretty cool. So you won't get in any trouble for weed. Yeah, so that's pretty nice. Michigan had a bunch of laws, too many to read. It was all different counties voting on certain things. I think it was like fucking 30 things passed per county voting and shit for cannabis. Either more dispensaries, cultivation, maybe not wanting weed in their neighborhood anymore. It was crazy how many Michigan. I don't have all the list on me, but it was crazy when I was reading it. So Michigan had some positives and some negatives when it comes to weed. Who else? I think that's Massachusetts voted no on psilocybin mushrooms as a psychedelic. Yeah, it was on the ballot for research and development and be able to use for health purposes, medically. It didn't even it got a no. It was pretty high. Yeah, it was pretty high. Unfortunately, it was like 60 something percent versus 40%, or 70 something to 30 something percent. I think, I can't remember. But it was high no. I was very shocked. Am I missing anything? No, I think I'm not. I might be, but that's okay. But Florida was the big one. And if you follow the trends and you read a lot about cannabis, like Earl does, I do, but follow stocks like I do. I follow cannabis stocks because I like to know. And to watch stocks were they're up and down. They're not. There's nothing big. It's 10 years away before you're going to make some money off of cannabis stocks. But with Florida saying no on Amendment 3, oh my God, my fucking cannabis stocks went to fucking dookie.
Damn.
Like, just took a crap. Stock market today was up 1,500 points. 1,500 points. Not 150, not 15. 1500.
That's crazy.
That's nuts in a one day jump. I've never seen it, and they're saying it's because of the election. Whatever. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about how bad cannabis stocks took a shit because Florida, North and South Dakota did not vote yes on their recreational, and especially Florida. Well, especially Florida, because Florida was projected to do in the first year of recreational $3 billion, maybe go as high as in the first 3 to 4 years, $4 to $6 billion. Every major MSO that's in the stock market that has their shit posted on fucking NASDAQ or Canadian is in Florida. They own it all. All the MSOs own Florida. Okay? They have anywhere between 25 dispensaries to 150 dispensaries, maybe even more. And they own from seed to sale. Because in Florida, you grow your shit, and whatever you grow in your own facility, and if you have other brands in your facility, you can only sell that in your own dispensaries. You cannot sell to competitive dispensaries. That was the law that I know of for medical. So they own the market. Monopolize the market. The Florida cannabis industry is monopoly 100%. There's only certain players that are in it. You're only allowed in it. But these motherfuckers spent $140 million to try to get it passed. Meanwhile, the hemp companies were spending a few $1 million, let's just say, compared to some of the big MSOs, one of them in particular. And so it was a battle. And with that state not passing, fucking cannabis stocks, mine were down anywhere between 3 to 8% today. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah, one day.
That's a lot. And one state, and maybe a little bit with North and South Dakota, but that was big because all those MSOs that are in the stock market, I own a few of them, and they all took a dookie today, man. Like a big fat crapper. Oh my God, it was brutal. So if you own stocks in the cannabis market, I feel for you.
check your shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll probably get beat up. People probably beat me up because I buy cannabis. Why not? Everybody else is fucking making money in the stock market.
Yeah,
I don't give a shit. Yeah, I want to fucking retire one day. I'm old.
Well, especially you're part of it, so you're already doing the research. You might as well.
Yeah, I make something. Fuck it. If you can get into the market and buy penny stocks in a cannabis business, and say buy 500. Say shares are 0.0. I mean, not share. A cost of a share is like point. It's under a penny. Okay, or it might be like 50 cents. If you could afford 100 shares of one of those penny cannabis stocks, do it. You can make, I'm not saying you're going to make money overnight. I am not a financial advisor. I am not a fucking analyst. I just do my research. I bought some stocks in a few different cannabis companies because why not support the industry, And I started fucking some of these companies I bought, they were fucking nothing. And now they're over $1 and I got 100 shares. So, all right, well, let me see if they can go to fucking $5 one day.
Yeah.
If it goes to $5, maybe one day they'll start paying. When they start earning, maybe they'll pay dividends. And I own like 7 different companies. Maybe one day they'll pay dividends. And when I'm ready to retire, I can live off my cannabis stocks. Just like some people bought fucking Microsoft. If you bought Microsoft back in 1983 and you spent $10,000 on Microsoft, okay, in 1983 or 85, I can't remember exactly when they went on fucking stock exchange. But if you bought Microsoft, right? I wish I could go back in time and tell my old man, buy 10,000 shares. It cost you back then it would have cost you like $5,000.
Yeah.
For 10,000 shares.
Or Bitcoin. Remember when Bitcoin was?
For all you newbie, for all the people that are into Bitcoin, I'll tell you a story real quick, and then we'll get my buddy Hoban down in Kentucky was a miner. If you don't know what that is, you fucking have very high powered fucking turbines on your computers, and you fucking mine with a fucking pick. Your modems are fucking axe picking on the fucking ground, picking up Bitcoin. No, I'm just kidding. It's fucking mining coins like through programming, zeros and ones. I guess that's how it works. I'm not 100% sure, but all I know is he was mining, and he mined like 92 coins in a couple years. Right? I think he sells them, makes a few grand. Imagine having 92 coins today at $63,000 is what Bitcoin. God, Bitcoin's like 60.
I remember talking to people at work, and it's like hitting like 1,500, and it's like, man, there's no way. It's got to be close to topping out. And then but then it had that huge dive, and it was like, well, dude, it's not going back up. And now again.
Oh yeah. Bitcoin's huge. I mean, God. I think did I buy Doge? No, I bought fucking Shibu. I bought Shibu Inu. I have like 8 million shares. I spent $250 because it was like, dude, it was like 22 zeros, and then you saw some real numbers. I think it was when I first bought it, or like 15 zeros and 2 numbers. I bought 8 million shares. If that shit ever goes to $1, adios, motherfuckers. Dude, I love you all.
50 cents, 25 cents. If it goes to 10 cents.
Yeah. But if it goes to $1, I'll gamble it. I'll let it sit and ride. If it goes to $1, I love you all, motherfuckers. Adios. Salute. I'm going on an island somewhere with a penis coladas and Mrs. Weedman, smoking big fat doinks. You come all visit me. I'll have plenty of weed and plenty of penis coladas for all you all.
Yeah. I hit my Shimu shares. Or like, what do they call it? Shimu?
Shibu Inu. That's actually, that shit fucking actually went to 20 cents. I checked it today. I wish I would have bought it in the beginning. I swear I wish it went to 20 cents. Damn. If you would have bought Shibu Inu when that first came out during COVID, you bought fucking, 10,000 fucking coins or some shit, you'd be fucking sitting pretty right now with a smile on your face.
20 cents. Fucking hell yeah.
I mean, shit, we should start a Big Earl Weedman coin.
That'd be cool.
Started at 20 zeros and then at the end 420, and that's where it starts out, and see where it goes.
See what the fuck happens. Get some miners going.
Yeah, right. With their modem.
We know how to air condition it. We know how to get, it's a lot of that same. We know how to run some power,
Yeah.
That shit's not too bad.
Listen, don't take any financial advice from me. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I just read and I go do it, or I listen, I learn and I go do it. So, but I am not I do not suggest you take my advice at all on anything. Please don't, except for take Big Earl's advice when it comes to growing weed. That's the only advice you should fucking take it from Earl. I don't know nothing. Yeah, I don't know nothing. I'm like Socrates. Know nothing, say nothing.
Hey, when Shimu Inu hits,
telling you, man. I'm telling you right now, $8 million. I'll tell you what. Doinks for days for all you all. All right, let's get going. We're talking about growing for weight, right? How do you grow for weight? I know how to gain weight real quick. Just fucking just eat and drink a lot of beer, and I put on the weight. But we're not talking about me gaining weight. How do you grow for maximum weight? Like Super Saiyan God mode, the Kami Ha. Or I'm actually a Vegeta fan, so I gotta do Gallic Gun. Fucking, you know what I'm saying? So how do you fucking go Super Saiyan God mode?
Super Saiyan God mode. So we're gonna be talking about indoor. With outdoor, I would say the biggest thing is we'll just do real fast outdoor. Full light. Make sure you're not like, if you're going for maximum weight, right? Full light. Make sure you're giving support, and make sure you're giving your plant some space. You probably want to have a way to get water out there, or have water out there. Make sure you're feeding and everything. But a big thing is that sun. You overlook. You have a tree over here, over there. I've seen it in like full greenhouses almost, where there's not like a giant greenhouse, like a hoop house, where the trees next to it, and it's like, holy shit, this stuff over here isn't doing as well, or it's not as big, and it's literally because the tree's taking up some of the light, So if you're outdoor, just make sure nothing's blocking your shit, and support it. I don't know why I see a lot of people not supporting stuff outside. You got to support it. You got to give it some support. But inside, let's start with topping in veg. That's that is a big thing. Train your plant, get it some airflow in veg. The more airflow it gets without burning it, the stronger the branches will be. The stronger it's going to hold itself up. So you don't want to blast everything with air, but that's what we talk about airflow. You can't get airflow out of our conversations. But that's so huge. And especially in veg. It's big in veg. Give your plant some space, let it grow, get it some air, and you're going to get it chunkier, and top it a couple times. If you have one canopy, right? And that's the hardest part and we'll talk about that at some point. But you have your one canopy, you have to train your plant to your area. And your canopy has to be, that's where your weed has to grow, right? And so if you don't start in veg and you don't get that shit going in veg, you can't expect too much in flower.
Right. What about starting with a healthy plant? You know, how
Yeah,
healthy is that baby got to
healthy
be?
too. Yeah, healthy. Not only trained but healthy. We've heard. I'm sure you've heard Terp say it because I've heard him say it so many times. You can't start flower with a unhappy plant. Listen, you can do whatever you want, but if you're starting flower with an unhappy plant, then it's like, oh, what's going on? Well, I mean, if the plant's already unhealthy, you're thrown into a completely new environment. It's starting a new life like cycle. It's not like a gradual one outside, so that already is a little stressful. That already will cause some plants to herm. Some plants that, oh, this herms for me. This doesn't herm for me. Sometimes it's some flipping stuff or something little like that. Um, but starting with a healthy plant is huge. Sad plant is going to be no fun, bad news. Literal like attract bugs. That's when pests and problems can get in. Like you can have some sort of spore or some sort of mold come into your room, and your plant literally fights it. Right? If your plant can't do that, if your plant's unhappy, if your plant's fighting something else, that's when you can get your problems so much easier. You know.
Hmm.
So that's what a lot of people like the product Regalia for powdery mildew. Regalia is a knotweed extract, if you look on there. And really what that does is it just hypes up the defense. It's just like it's just like, I'm not gonna say it's not like vitamins or anything, but it doesn't like fight the actual powdery mildew. It gives the plant something to hype up its defense of it. And so if you have a really happy, healthy plant, it's gonna do that anyway. I mean, not to say Regalia won't help there. It's just your cell walls are gonna be thicker. It's gonna be harder
Right.
for something to get past it. It's your everything's gonna be just working so much nicer, and then the little problems aren't gonna. It's like with people almost. The little problems aren't gonna be able to infiltrate.
Right.
So
Nice.
happy and healthy, baby. Start that stuff.
Got to get that infiltration done there, yo. If you don't infiltrate, you ain't gonna get that rebate. You know what I'm saying?
You need it.
What about that light? We got to grow for light, right? You talked about light.
Yeah.
What's the importance of it?
So a lot of this. So we'll go through growing for weight. So your light is like growing for your light. So an LED, for instance, when you grow with LEDs, you might top twice. Where with other, maybe you're growing with like a high pressure sodium. Maybe you're like, so when I ran high pressure sodiums, I ran them down the middle of my tray, but my plants I purposely had to the sides so that the taller part of it wouldn't hit the light. I top more when I'm in my LED because my canopy, it's about 2 foot deep, but when I had my HPSs, it was deeper. It was like 3 or 4 foot deep. Like the whole inside of my plant was being exposed to this light because that's the HPS was a single source. A bulb is a single source. You have to grow to it. You have to grow like a U around it because if something gets too close, it burns. It gets really hot. And you can't grow U all the way around it because not only does light not get on the side, but you have to get some air moving under those or you're going to burn some shit up. So training your plant under an HPS or even an LED that's like a lot of LEDs that are made for warehouses are like those really high powered single bars. I don't know if you've ever seen those. Like 600 or 700 watts are in one single bar, and it's made for a warehouse. It's like a double-ended replacement is basically what they made them for. So if you have a room made with double-ended bulbs, or if you have the HPS bulbs, like like the single-ended still,
right?
These can take its place a little easier. It can be a little farther away. It can act the same. You don't have to like regrid your ceiling and shit. But most of us don't have that. Most of us are in a basement. So if you're going for LED, my best advice would be to grow much more flat top. Grow as close to your panel. I like to get very close to my panels, like 6 inches away at the top, and then grow maybe like a foot and a half down. It depends on how thick everything is. Maybe like a foot until light stops reaching it. Basically, if light's getting there, and I can get a flower there, I'm doing that. Because ultimately that's what it's about. Your canopy has to absorb your light. So, as far as growing to your light, yes, that will change how you do things a little bit. That's what we talk about it a lot. Where it's like somebody says you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. What type of light you have is one of those things that can be overlooked when you're looking at how somebody is growing. Even like a cob LED compared to regular LEDs and stuff, like everything just runs a little differently. It's like medium. You're like, oh, this guy waters 3 times a day. Well, if you're in peat moss, you're never gonna have fun watering 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, but yeah, it's that's all the canopy. You know, it's the getting your canopy right, growing
How
to
much,
your light.
if you're real quick, if you're watering 3 times a day, how much water are you watering that plant?
So they're only in 1 to 2 gallons. I water each plant. If I ran the math real quick, probably about each plant about 10 gallons a week.
Each plant.
Yeah. So about 60 gallons, because I only run 6 plants in a 4x8 area.
Gotcha.
So about 60 gallons per 4x8 area a week. But
damn.
yeah, it runs off of a reservoir, so it's not like
right.
obviously, but
yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I like to run because I run my tea too. I run a 55 gallon, which really is like a 50 after you get all the shit in there, and then
those plants like your tea too. I can taste it when I smoke it.
Yeah, I found I was doing less, but how I like to run mine is a little different. And it was easier for me to control my atmosphere if I pumped a little water in the middle of the night.
Gotcha.
I know we talked about how stupid that is, but I tried to take it out and things just got a little dry first off. And I was just finding I didn't have this, like, I don't even know. I don't even know why it was happening or what was happening, but I just hit it a little, pew, but they seem to get real dried out at night, basically.
Gotcha. Where did we leave off? Canopy management?
Atmosphere and air movement, baby.
There we go. Atmosphere and air movement.
Dude, if you're talking about weight and, atmosphere and air movement, and, we're going to talk about also genetics, but yeah, atmosphere and air movement, we'll never stop talking about air movement. Air movement does a lot as far, everything from strengthening your stems, like we talked about, to replacing the air on top of your plants. So the CO2, especially if you're pumping CO2 into a room and your air you're going to have a fan going over the top of your canopy, you need to be replacing that air. It's eating that shit. It's taking that CO2 out of it. If you've got some stagnant air over your canopy, not only is the heat going to build, but it's gonna eat your CO2 out, and so you gotta get it replacing. That's a huge thing. Light air movement, a fan, just a little bit. You don't want to hit it all the time. You don't want to blast it ever. Just a little air movement. And the atmosphere, of course, the CO2. That's a big one. If you're in a room with plants and you're not replacing CO2, you should just at least check it. Normal outside I think is like 350 or 400.
Right.
So the room, if you're running a room full of plants and you're not substituting air, even if you're not substituting CO2, even if you're substituting air, you might be surprised at how low your CO2 is. I have a story about that. I went to this garden and they're having all kinds of problems, from bugs to like improper water, like everything was a problem. But one of the problems is this room, one room in particular. I was like, man, why? Like the flowers were so little and everything was so like, it was just like, what is going on here? So this garden, their whole thing. I left there and they still hadn't gotten it fixed, but we're getting the CO2 put in. We're getting the CO2 put in. We're getting this system. We're getting that system. Never made up their mind. And this one room, I took a little, because like they didn't have things set up. So we took a little thing and just set it up in there. And it was 90 parts per million. Damn. And I was like, this right here is exactly what we do. And these flowers were so small and pitiful. And it was just like the plants were pretty happy looking. But yeah, things were really small. Things stretched really hard. And it was like, what? It was wild.
So
leaves,
long stems.
Yeah. And that was that. And dude, like I said, this place was like, it was like, oh, when's the last time you changed your bulbs? Oh, okay. And how long have you been operating? And it's like, so you've been operating a few years. You don't have any like anything that shows you changing your bulbs at all. And so, you know what I mean? And their DEs still last a couple years, but like they were, I forget, it was like 3 or 4 years when I got there, and almost 5 years when I left.
So their light has dimmed so much that the plants aren't getting what they need.
Not only the light, but the reflector. The reflector is a big oversight. Those reflectors,
you got to clean them, right?
dude, not only clean them, but I've had reps from well-known lighting company, like one of the top lighting companies, tell me when they had their DEs running that they suggested to replace the reflectors every 6 months. And that is because it would, not only was it dirt, yeah, it gets dirty and you can wipe that off, but it wasn't reflecting as much. They would like tarnish or some shit.
Is that from the light? Just the heat from
Probably,
the
yeah.
light
That's probably exactly
burning?
what it is.
Because it's probably cheap. What, aluminum or reflow? It's probably really cheap shit they're using nowadays. Not quality, and it just burns right through that fucking shit. So like, yeah.
And that's what he said. And the DE, the biggest thing about the DE was it was a step up from the single-ended bulb. And the single-ended bulb would lose. That one was like every 6 months if you were running a constant 12-12, 6 months. And it's not like, oh, you have to replace it. They would run. You would make your money. If you got new ones, you'd make the money of the bulb plus a little bit back. You know, because they would lose so much. And the big thing there was a metal connector, and where that metal and glass met, there was no way of sealing it 100%, so gas would leave. When we went to the double-ended bulbs, they crimped both sides. And so the double-ended bulbs would slide up in and slide over the end instead of twisting, and so both ends hit it. And since it was crimped, it lost not very much. So they could last about 2 years to 80. They always based it 80%, is it efficacy?
I don't know.
80% like optimum. And so the DE, they always said the double-ended bulb was 2 years, 80%, but while the single-ended was 6 months, 80%.
Damn.
It's a huge thing, bro.
That's crazy.
You start talking about the lights pushing out. Let's say you've had the bulb in there for 3 years, lights pushing out 70%, the reflector's all fucked up. You haven't cleaned them very well, and they lost their reflectiveness. You know, you might be losing. That's 50% of your bulb goes up and comes back down.
And how much weight is that you're going to lose? Probably 25, 30% of your weight on the butt or more.
Yeah, probably. And, you know, what every spectrum, every light beam, every bit of whatever isn't absorbed by the plant and turned into food for the plant turns into heat. So when that bulb is losing 30% reflectiveness or 40% reflectiveness into the hood and into itself, just into what it can create now, but you're still getting the heat or getting more heat actually, you can have yourself a little problem if you have a whole room full of that shit.
Oof. No bueno, no bueno. No
mas.
No
bueno. So grow for your light. Know what your light is, know how to grow for that shit.
What about we talk about watering a lot, you know, and feeding. We've talked about in a lot of shows. With watering, we know overwatering is everyone's fucking hazard point in life. Yeah. You know, overwatering is
tricky.
Yes.
It looks so good. Everything looks so good until it's rotten and dead. Like, right. What the fuck happened? It looks so good. And every time it didn't look good, I gave it water.
Would you say, so let me ask you a question, maybe because I'm a newbie and I don't know what I'm doing. If I didn't water enough, would that make the buds less heavier? Like, would they make them light and airy and like there's nothing to it because I'm not giving it enough water? Or is it the nutrients that I'm not giving it enough to that's adding weight also? Or is it maybe because I under-nutted it, I'm not getting enough weight either? Or is it a combination of both? And I know we're talking about properly watering and feeding. It's just, you know, to get that weight, is it, or if I overwater, is it going to hurt the bud, you know, from gaining weight and thickness, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all of it messes up your weight. And that's what we're talking about with all this in general. But if, you know, just like good grow practices is a lot of this, and that's how you optimize your weight. But properly watering is huge. And the dryback, so the dryback is what people don't reckon. The plant needs the dryback. The root needs the dryback. Different plants need different drybacks, and different plants want different medias because of that. Almost like you could grow almost any plant in any media. Like you could probably grow a cactus in like a moss or something that's wet a lot. Or maybe not wet a lot, but that if you properly manage that moisture for it, it could probably do it. It's just really hard to properly manage the moisture at that point.
Right.
And so when you put the cactus in the sand and you know it's getting really dry and, you know, and that's maybe a stupid analogy, but the medium's everything. And that dryback. So we've talked about this before, but we'll go over it again. So the big thing with cocoa is, so you can overwater cocoa for sure. The big thing with cocoa is you don't see a ton of stress from overwatering. You can definitely overwater it. If you see like the little white nubbins going up your plant, especially on the bottom near the top of your soil, huge sign that you have a big humidity down there, because your plant will literally start trying to grow these little like air roots. And it happens, especially if you've got like an automatic watering system in a veg area and it's overgrown a little bit, like you can get those little roots down there for sure. And but the big thing with cocoa is it lays like sticks. So when you overwater it, it doesn't just like completely like surround the root, like the peat moss and then like the soils outside. They completely surround the root, and at that point, the only oxygen it has available to itself is in the moisture around it. Once the oxygen is gone, it's like it's literally drowning, and so that's why they look good. So you're like, oh, this is slumping and it's being overwatered. Well, you feed it some water, it got that little pump of oxygen, but it sucks it out real fast. Has nowhere to go. You need the dry back for the oxygen, and because the root needs a little persuasion. That root will be lazy. If you just give it everything it needs, hey, here's all the food and all the water you're ever going to need. Why would it ever go looking for anything else? You're overwatering. That is the big thing. You can overwater a little bit and things are going to be okay. You can underwater a little bit and things are going to be okay. They might not, but they're not going to be optimal. It's when you hit that perfect watering. And different mediums are more and less forgiving, but it's when you hit that perfect watering that you get that explosion of roots and all the, if you're using biologies and stuff are blowing up, and you're like there's you can just tell such a huge difference. And that's why I use cocoa, honestly. That other stuff is it's pretty hard to do. Especially if you're running a ton of different strains and like different sized plants every now and again, and like using smaller pots. Like I couldn't run like a soil in a 1 gallon pot. That would, or even on a recirculating system. It's hard to run soil on a recirculating system.
That's interesting.
Really, really good. Or they have systems now, I think, that like read the moisture in the soil and adjust. But as far as like putting just like a watering system and every day it waters, it's hard to do like regular soil. Because like you have, even if you have like 6 of the same plants, exact same size, exact same atmosphere, everything's really nice in the room, and one plant's not getting a little more air, But if you have different strains running and shit, it's hard.
That's why I think towards the last couple of grows, I just did one strain instead of doing like 3, or 2. I just stuck with just doing the same one, And people are like, don't you like to? I do get choice every fucking 100 and something days. I'm planting 2 new ones, or 3 new ones.
If they're seeds, they'll be a little different probably. Especially if they're F1s.
Yeah, I mean, I started doing like 2 or 3 different strains, and then I got tired of keeping track of the 2 different ways they grew and all this shit. So I just started sticking to just plant 2. Plant 4 seeds, get 2. Hope you might get 3, you might get none, but whatever. Yeah. I just found it. I have a small little tent. If I had a bigger space, where I can put 6, 8 plants, 10 plants, I probably would do 4 and 4.
Yeah.
So, but that's for another time. But yeah, I went to just doing like you're always growing a few different. A lot different, I should say. You got a lot going on.
I rarely have the same strain like running at the same time. It's
no, I've never grown the same strain twice though.
Yeah.
So every grow is a different seed. Different seeds, different strain, different seeds, different seeds, different seeds. So in my 5 years of growing here, almost 5 years of growing here, I've never grown the same strain twice yet. And that's because I don't want to. I want to keep on trying new stuff. I might go back to some of the seeds that I have, or if I had a bigger space. If I had a bigger space, then it's a different story. But because I have so many different seeds that I've been given or have gotten or bought, I enjoy just running something different every time right now. Cause it's just like a kid. It's like a kid in a candy store. You got to try new shit, you know?
Oh, for sure. I do.
Yeah.
And seeds are just, seeds are just so fun. It's opening a little egg, like.
No, I love it. Yeah, we've talked about this. I rather do seeds all day long. So,
yeah. But so with that watering though too is the feeding part, because that can. So here's how you can full circle your fucking feeding. So you're not feeding properly, right? So first off, for flower building, okay, let's say you have a PK booster, right? Because that's what you add. That's if you look at flower boosters, it'll be a potassium and phosphorus booster. Some people argue potassium is more important. Some people argue phosphorus is more important. I personally think potassium is really nice for like developing the flower and finishing, and phosphorus adds a bulk. I see nice. When I add a big bulker, it's like a big phosphorus add. It did bulk up flowers, but it also like when I did more of when I replaced some of that room in my feed for phosphorus, I felt like everything else was better. And it's not like there was less weight; it was maybe a little more dense. And it wasn't just like maxing it out, It wasn't like I liked Moab for a little bit. It's a acronym, is that what they call it? Mother of all blooms.
That was Mother of all bombs, but yeah, Mother of all blooms.
Mother of all blooms. And it's like a 0.5623 or something crazy, And you had like a couple tablespoons, and shit gets wild. And it would add some weight, but it also definitely stressed things. I saw a lot of castling when I did that, and it's like, yeah, if your plant's gonna castle, and a castle is exactly what it sounds like. These little areas of your bud start to protrude. You've probably seen some flower that actually does that a little bit on its own.
Interesting.
When you start getting some of these huge PK boosts, they start doing it more. And I've had things castle like fucking fingers, like where it's like it's weird looking. Especially there was a landrace variety. Yeah, it was literally like reached up, like it only looked like a bud until you got to it, and you're like, holy shit, these are really long, skinny buds, like running up next to each other.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Yeah, it almost looked like a regular bud from the outside. But it's so. But so here's how you can rotate that. Here's how these get people. So this PK boost adds an EC, a pretty big EC, right? If you're adding a PK boost, definitely pH. I'm sure that anybody does that does. If you don't, you should. Phosphorus and potassium are the two things that change pH the most. So depending on what it is, like it can really affect stuff. If you look at up and down, usually it's either a straight phosphorus or straight potassium.
Interesting.
That's all. It's like you look at it, like, oh shit, that's all it is. And the good ones, I believe, just make it's a type that's unavailable to the plant. So it'll change the pH, but then you're not adding like this EC or any kind of boost to your water or your plant. But anyway, so you get this potassium and phosphorus boost, this PK. You're like, oh, I'm only adding a tablespoon to it. It won't be bad. Well, it's a huge food boost. And if you water the same, you might get an EC buildup. You might get a salt buildup. And so you're watering a higher EC, your salt is not being absorbed fast enough by the plant, but the water is absorbing faster or as fast. So this salt, time after time, just sits there. Well, all of a sudden it starts burdening your roots, so your roots actually start uptaking less. And then you're watering the same, though, and you're getting this progression in your plant, because usually you water more and more and more and more until a transplant or until it's done. Or the finish at least, right? And so then all of a sudden you say, man, what is going on? It's not eating like it was. Something's going on here, something's going on there. And if you're not pHing, first off, it could be that. Your pH could be really weird. It might not even be salts. But it could be just a salt buildup that is fucking up how you're feeding. And really, at the end of the day, you're feeding it and watering it wrong. Because the plant's not wrong. You're wrong. The plant's never wrong.
Damn, I like that line. The plant's not wrong.
Yeah, you're not treating it right. You're not treating it the right way because you're not seeing this PK. You're not feeding it and doing it, and ultimately your yield is going to hurt. Everything's going to hurt, but your yield for sure is going. And you're gonna be adding a PK boost, being like, I'm going to bulk these bitches up, and it's just going to drop your fucking yield. But if you know how to do it and you're doing it, so what I would do in that, if you had a P, first off, if you up your EC ever, if you're like, I want to try this, but I don't want to take something else out, right? If you're doing experiments, make sure you're getting your EC and your pH for sure. your EC, you don't want to get too high. I'll let mine wander in that like 2.5, 2.6 area, especially if I don't have a buildup. But really, I want mine at like the 2.0 maybe. And I don't want it flushing out above the 2.6, 2.5. So when I'm reading my runoff, if it's coming out way above what I'm putting in it, I know I have a buildup.
Right.
And that's just what it is. And with my 1 gallon, I have to be real careful with my 1 gallon. So I take my readings too early. Some of it will be runoff off the sides, and it'll throw me some false numbers because it runs off the side, so it's not going through my soil. So if you are measuring your runoff, make sure it's water going through your soil, water slowly, and collect out the bottom. It's super simple. Like when I flush, I do a whole tray at a time. I just wait. I don't want to take the immediate water.
Right.
Just in case. But yeah, so you add these PK boosts and it ends up these flower boosters to maximize your weight, end up throwing off your whole game, and that's how it's going to do it. It's going to you're either going to get a salt buildup or you're going to get a pH imbalance. Just make sure you're paying attention there. The PK boosters are great. Don't get me wrong. They're going to up your game. Try potassium at the beginning and the end of your run, and try to get a calcium in there at the beginning and the end of your run without a nitrogen. See how you like that.
Don't forget those imbalances, everybody. Tell you.
Yeah.
Man, it's management time. Got to management that fucking canopy and shit, man. That's important, right?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. It is important. The biggest thing is if you're scrogging the net, they have 6 and 3.5 inch nets. If you're running a plant with a bunch of branches, you might like the 3.5s more than the 6s. If you're using it to support a lot of like side branching and different stuff, you might like 3.5s. If you're using it more to just like support a main few branches and like I like to double net mine. I like the 6s because it's just like I use one to stretch. I use my bottom tier to stretch and maneuver my plant, and I use the top tier to like kind of lay on. And then I grow my canopy in between there, and it makes a really easy way of me knowing like, hey, I'm going to trim off everything under this, and then I'm going to support everywhere. But that canopy management is huge. Showing support is huge. A branch slopping over, even if it's not looking like it's slopping over that much, if it's just going to the side a little bit, if you give it a little support, it will be bigger. It'll grow bigger.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't, if the thing's going to fall, you're going to lose some weight there. So manage the shit out of that canopy, grow for your light.
Scrogging is such an art. Such an art when I've seen some people do their canopies and how one plant and the whole fucking thing looks like a Mr. Miyagi bonsai. Just fucking the whole fucking tent is just scrogged out. It's just so beautiful how they do that. I would love to try that one day. It takes time and patience. And it takes a little bit longer to grow.
Yeah.
But I mean, the way some of those people make that canopy is just like, you can't even see, like, it's just perfection. I mean, I can't explain it. How some of them I've seen people do. It's just amazing, and how just every bud is just, everything is all the
everywhere.
Same. Yeah. It's just every single fucking what is those nets called? I always forget. Fucking with the holes.
Square.
Yeah, little squares. Every single one is full.
Yeah.
And it's just like perfection.
Those make it so easy. Because it's like it checkers it out for you. And so the 6s I like too, because it lets you, the 3.5s a lot of times, and I'm sure there's other sizes. The 3.5s and the 6s are just the normal ones, but I like growing a deeper canopy. I know that that's counterintuitive to some of the stuff I was just saying, because I do grow with LED, but I also grow pretty high power, and I grow really close to the LED, and I feel like when I grow deeper like that, not only can I get a plant through veg a little faster, I don't have to, but I like what I get. I like I definitely have my lower part that's like, it's not bad by any means. It's just not as like dense and not as like huge and flowering. But I take almost every leaf off that plant, and like when it's going through the end of flowering, like it has not a ton of like I want light hitting my shit, and it develops things well enough to where it's still terpy and it's still delicious, and it's 2.5 feet from the LED.
There you
go. A bunch of, but everything's supported, everything's leaned a little bit. And the trellis, the canopy management makes it all come together right there. If you're not doing that, it's going to be very, very, even when you're doing everything else perfectly, it's about absorbing that light. If you're not absorbing the more light you're absorbing, the more it's eaten. That's everything.
Yeah, trellises are great. I mean, they just really support your stems and your buds, especially if they're heavy. They're not fucking falling over, into hitting the sides, and you protect those babies. Got to protect them babies.
They make single plant trellises too. I don't know if you've ever seen those. They're basically like a bamboo, but not bamboo, like a metal rod.
Okay.
And it's got a square, like 2 foot by 2 foot square.
That's cool.
It's like a little rubber trellis, and you just put it in one pot, and it goes. And they make them for like 2x4 tents and all that stuff. Or you can get like a 4x8 one and cut it into fours. But on outside, I've used it. So a lot of people see this trellis as flat. On outside plants, I use it like a blanket. First off, I wouldn't throw them up until they were a little bigger. But when the sun's going, over on the sides, the canopy will grow deep as fuck out there. And so inside, it's just the one light above. Outside, it's going, sunset and sunrise, and the canopy goes way deeper outside.
Right.
At least mine did. So I just grew to it. Like, I was like, oh shit, I'm going to grow an N, a lowercase n or whatever you'd call it, a little hill on my canopy. I'm just going to get the insides outside. Everything on the outside, though, I'm going to let go. As long as it's going to get light at some point of the day.
Right. That's crazy. Some outdoor plants, man, are fucking insane, too. If you don't have it. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. When you get this, so they call them weeds for a reason. When you get this shit going, especially like our biggest problem at the hemp spot that my parents ran for a little bit is literally these weeds growing as weeds.
I saw those pictures of those plants. They were fucking monsters.
And the stalks are like as fat as your fucking leg.
Yeah.
And like these things are like the only plant standing in monsoon storms coming through. It's like this one plant with like a branch broken off of it that's still alive as fuck, but just broken to the ground, and everything else is just like barely. This thing's just like
that ain't no storm. When's the real shit coming? Is what they're saying.
Yeah, dude, it's wild. But what's happening is it's getting stronger and stronger every year. Because these things, there's like 5 or 6 of them that go to flower, and then at least, and then like a few males that go to flower in the area, and then they're making seeds, and these bastards are getting stronger every year. Every year, great. It's like, that's what I said this would be year 5. After year 1, we saw it year 2, and it was year 4, 5. We saw it, our first volunteers is what you call them when they just pop up. Year 2, and we saved one and made seeds out of it because that's why it was like, we're going to save the strongest one, and then our male that we like, we're going to make seeds out of it. But then when you make seeds outside, branches die and fall off, and all this shit you're harvesting them, and seeds are falling off everywhere. So the next year we had a bunch of these, seeds that were like most of them at least were a purposeful cross.
Right.
And then they just kept, like I said, they just kept going. Now they're stronger and stronger. And I wonder when it gets to I don't know if you'd call it an heirloom or whatever you'd call it, when it gets to like, to be for the area.
Oh, I don't know.
Like, you know what I mean? Like if the plant is strong enough to reproduce in the area, then it's like a native, or maybe not a native, but like, I don't know.
That's interesting.
There's a name for it when something's adapted to an area, so it'll grow better in this area than that area, kind of thing. Because
I wish Paulie was here. He went to fucking horticulture school and agriculture school. He would be able to tell us.
Yeah. Me too. There's a name for it somewhere. He probably knows.
So fucking dude, man. Sometimes I get so stressed. I know how to handle my stress though, but you got to know and understand your plant stressors, right? So how do you fucking
plant for your stressors? The plant needs you for its stressors. So first off, stressors aren't always bad. A little bit of heat, as long as you know what you're doing with it, a little bit of heat stress can increase, the cannabinoids building on the outside of the plant to save it from a sunburn kind of thing, or that's what UV does too. But so can like really intense light. But when it's too intense, you get burns, or when you have too much par running on your light, so it's too intense for the plant to absorb, not even talking heat, and you don't have enough CO2, stuff like that, those are types of stressors where it's like, no, you don't, but there are literally products that add stress, like make your plant think it has like a bug infestation. There's man, what's it called? Insect frass?
Right.
Insect frass, dude. It is like shells of insects, like crickets and different shit. And man, I hope I'm not misremembering this because I misremember shit all the time. But what it does is it has something in it, like chitin or chitin or something.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to remember it. And what this breaks down into, or tells the plant that it has a bunch of bugs around it. So the plant ups its defenses, throws this shit up, but it's what it's supposed to do. If you have a small amount of bugs and it's not to the point of hurting your crop, it can boost your shit up. And listen, I'm not saying like bugs boost your shit up. That's, it doesn't. But when the plant thinks it's under attack, it goes into defense mode. It lets out stressors. Plants outside, all plants do that shit. Plants outside can read each other. They can know what's going on over here and over there. That's why the mycorrhizal, network is so important. The whole network underground is so important. Not just
that's what I was about to say. It's all the mushrooms, right? With their little fucking long fucking connecting everything, right?
Yeah, that's how. I mean, that's what I've read at least.
Me too.
But yeah, it's stressors aren't always bad, and knowing how you're stressing. Hey, you're stressing your plant out a little bit. It's a little dry. Hey, you just know what they are, and make sure they're not adding up. Make sure you know what your negatives and positives are, and when things start to go awry, look at your negatives first. Hey, this is happening. Okay, well, let's throw a quick little burst of water in the middle of the night, not to so much feed it, but just to rehydrate the media. Okay, let's see if it'll work, but yeah.
Don't kill it with a ton of water. Just give it enough, Don't overwater it now because it was dry. Make sure you fucking still give the right amount, right? You don't want to fucking all of a sudden you got fucking we're gonna talk about that in a minute.
With mine, I just wasn't using it for the feed. I was using it so usually when I feed twice in little spurts to mitigate that running off the sides. And so, but at night I just did one of those spurts. It wasn't so much to feed, but I was scared a little bit that I was going to get a buildup with that. But it didn't end up giving me any kind of buildup or anything that I noticed, at least. So I've been running like that for many years.
No. If it works, don't fucking break it, right?
I might lower the EC or something. I can't fucking remember.
The most important thing one of the most important things is genetics. Genetics.
Genetics. Yes, sir. That's everything, bro. Genetics is everything. Genetics, number one. Airflow, number two. And then whatever comes before number one is CalMet. But genetics is everything. It doesn't matter, if you have some kind of crazy. Land races are fucking awesome. They're fun. They're different. They're, if you're growing just for some weed and all that, that's not where you're at on land races. Land races are you grow to be like, hey, I want to try this. This is going to be different, and that's what it's going to be. Especially from like a region somewhere else in the world, like crazy. The Lebanese land race has been one of my favorite. I've done a couple different things with it.
Yeah, chilled wine haze times Lebanese land race is fucking great to grow.
Dude, it wasn't as wild as some of the other stuff, and some of the other stuff weren't even straight land races.
It was great to grow, though. Really,
it was fun.
Yeah, it was a fun fucking grow.
I didn't grow that outside this year, but I grew that outside last year. I made it outside the year before that, I think. But dude, that's what it's like. I love outside. You throw a little piece of plastic up over a little box outside, and you can get some autoflowers out there pretty quick in the summer.
Nice.
I love growing outside, man. I love inside too, but outside's super fun. But genetics, man. It doesn't matter what scrog you run, what light you run, and all this, all that. If your genetics aren't right, if you don't have that right plant, it's not going to be there. There's no fortune. There's no saying, well, this plant sucked, but I gave it a potassium boost, took it to 11 hours of light, and, topped it twice in veg, and now it's just the shit. There's no, there's no magical, oh, I gave it back guano, so now it's the shit. It's the genetics you start with.
Gotcha. Sweet.
There's no adding it. You start with 100% potential, and all you can do is fuck it up.
Don't fuck it up.
There's no
simple as that.
Yeah. That's
Don't
all. You
fuck
can
it
try
up.
to get out of there with a 90. You're trying to get out of there with a fucking A. 90. If I don't fuck this up at 10%, you're gonna have some fantastic.
So I have this weight problem. Sometimes I get a little rotty too in the roots.
Well, couch rot.
Yeah, I call it gut rot too. Every once in a while, I get a little gut rot.
Yes.
So tell us about problems with weight and bud rot and some support. What do we got to do to support that rot?
That's just something people don't talk about a lot. So if your garden's super clean and you don't have a history of it, and your plants are really healthy, you probably don't have the problem. But if you run in a normal basement, and you also have your workout equipment and storage and your laundry down there, and it's a clean, everything's delicious and great. I'm not even saying any of that. I'm just saying, if anything's like that, the bigger and denser your flower is, the more weight you have, the more bud rot. That's one of the reasons I really liked the haze while I was working with those hazes a lot. I didn't see bud rot, but I noticed that I really disliked. I had some super heavy cookies, is what I was always told, type genetics, that at least how it grew, and it was like these really dense golf ball, and it would be do, and there was a few strains, and it was all right. I didn't get bud rot or anything, but it was just so dense, and it was dry, and like I felt like I wasn't getting the terps in it, and it wasn't developing as well as a flower as some of the different hazes that I had been running. And so, and not even just haze, just like some of the different plants that had the fluffier, larger bud structure. It's a little fluffier, but the flowers are usually a little larger, but it's not as dense. And it's you can still get a pretty good weight off of it, and you don't have to deal with that as much. So especially if you're like running outside and drying in a barn or something, and you're running these fucking giant, massive colas, and it's getting rained on, and I mean, even if you're in a hoop house and protecting it, the bud rot chances in some huge, dense ass cola compared to a nice, fluffy flower from some known outdoor or something that's like made, because like those bigger plants, those bigger land races are more outdoorsy plants.
I can't wait. I can't wait to grow a Lebanese outdoor. I'm excited. I want to watch that fucking just go
wild.
I want to grow it straight in the dirt. I don't know if I want to, I want to grow it straight in the ground. I don't want to put, like, I've seen people put theirs in like, big, like 50-pound drum fucking, or big 250-gallon, like they put the dirt pile and they wrap it. Man, I want that motherfucker. I want to see if I can get that shit like in the ground and watch that shit. If you get good soil, I want to see what it can do. Get it to like a couple weeks old and then, change it into that. I think that'd be fun to watch watch those motherfuckers just say, "See ya," See
you, buddy. And there were, I grew out. Man, I can't even remember how many ladies I grew out of that. I only did one run of it, but it was more than just 2 or 3. But I remember a few smaller pheno also, which was surprising in there. A few were really unruly of those Lebanese crosses, but a couple were like really nice, like tent stature plants. So we'll see. We'll see what you get.
Listen, man, I know I could put on weight really quick, but growing for weight though is, man, there's still a lot to know, growing for weight and shit like that. It's a lot in there, a lot of good shit. Thanks, Big Earl.
I mean, it was a lot of this. I felt like we've definitely talked about all this before, and maybe not just put in this format of growing for weight, but really it's just having a healthy, happy plant and letting your genetics do what the fuck they do. That's the biggest thing. And if you want to blast a little bit, everything goes in cahoots. If you want to blast more light, make sure that you have more CO2 and that you up your EC, but that you also up your feeding, because you don't want to get that buildup. It all has to come up together. There's no just adding one. So
Right.
if you really want to blast out your shit, try that. If you got everything perfected in your garden, add CO2. Once you add CO2, try to up your lights.
There you go. Well, listen, man, I know what I got to do to lose some weight.
Yes.
But I also know what I need to do to gain some weight. There was one special fucking thing we totally forgot about to mention and on the gain some weight in your buds. What the fuck did we forget, dude? We forgot something, man. What did we forget?
We talked about the one side of it, the beginning and end of your cycle calcium, but we forgot the mag. Guys, the mag is there for a reason. Mega huge flowers is what that stands for.
Oh shit! Everybody,
that cow mag.
Earl, I love it. Everybody out in the world, don't forget your cow mag. Peace. Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.